What's up YouTube? Dougie Chong here. Welcome to today's episode where we'll be going over the SPACEX IPO. Before we get started, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. In this video, I'll give a brief overview of what the company SPACEX is, and then at the end, I'll give my opinion on if the IPO is a buy or not. I've seen a lot of IPOs in my time, from Facebook to Uber and Airbnb, but none were as big as SPACEX is projected to be. I remembered when I first heard about the company SPACEX, I was in the third year of my university program at the University of Toronto. One of the programs we had was called Aerospace Engineering. There's a pretty limited number of jobs for people in this program, and one of my friends was interested in applying for a co-op placement at SPACEX. I remember thinking that would be a pretty cool place to work. You get to work with rockets and such, but I was disheartened to learn that you had to be a US citizen in order to work there, since I am a Canadian citizen. The company was pretty small back then, but I didn't even know that it was founded 10 years before in the year 2002. Okay, let's talk SPACEX. SPACEX is Elon Musk's rocket and satellite company. They build reusable rockets such as Falcon 9 and Starship. They launch payloads into orbit, and they have Starlink, which is their satellite network. On top of that, after merging with Elon Musk's AI company, they are positioning themselves as an AI plus space infrastructure company. This means they're trying to put data centers into space and use Starlink's satellite to beam that information back down to Earth. This has many advantages such as unlimited solar energy. So what's actually happening on this IPO? SPACEX is targeting a listing on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol SPCX. According to multiple reports, they're aiming to set the price on June 11th, start trading on June 12th, and raise between $50 to $75 billion in fresh capital. At the current talk, we're looking at a valuation of $1.5 to $1.8 trillion, which would be one of the biggest IPOs ever. And here is the wild part. SPACEX is planning to allocate 30% to retail investors. This is nearly 3 times as much as the 5 to 10% that is usually allocated for big Wall Street deals. Now let's break down how this company actually makes money, because it's not just rockets go boom, stock price goes up. According to the S1 on recent analyses, SPACEX pulled in between $18 and $18.7 billion for 2025 on a consolidated basis. But despite that huge top line, they posted a net loss of about $4.9 billion. So they're not quite a profit generating machine yet. EBITDA, which strips out interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, came out to around $6.6 billion. So there is a real business here. SPACEX breaks their business down into 3 main categories. Connectivity, which is Starlink, their satellite internet network. Space, which is sending payloads to space on behalf of other organizations. And thirdly, it is AI through their XAI division. Starlink is the superstar. The S1 and follow-on analysis showed it did roughly $11.3 to $11.4 billion in 2025. This is about 60% of the company's total revenue, and it's the only segment that is strongly profitable. Starlink's adjusted EBITDA increased from 80 to 86% in just 2024 to 2025. And subscriber counts roughly doubled in that period. That's insane growth for a telecom company. Second, the space segment. Launches brought in about $4 billion of revenue in 2025, but a lot of that was being reinvested back into newer spaceships. So this is closer to break even or moderately loss taking when taking into account things like R&D burn. Third is the AI division. This is where things get spicy. The S1 said they made about $3 billion in revenue in 2025. Despite that huge revenue, they post an operating net loss of $6.3 to $6.4 billion, and they're heavily losing more money into 2026. In plain English, Starlink is generating money, launch is about break even, and then AI is just throwing money into the fire. Let's talk growth. From 2024 to 2025, SpaceX's revenue grew 33%. That's massive for a company at this scale. In the first quarter of 2026, they are reporting $4.7 billion of revenue. That's 15% growth, so their growth story is continuing. On the flip side, the company is still burning real money. In the same Q1 2026 period, they were burning $2 billion in net loss. This is largely because the AI division is aggressively spending on compute, talent, and infrastructure. So you're buying a business that is very strong on revenue growth from Starlink, but is spending a lot of money on things like AI. Now let's talk valuation, because this is where people get really nervous or really hyped. At a $1.5 trillion valuation with $80 billion in trailing sales, you're looking at about an 80 price to sales ratio. At $1.8 trillion, you're looking at a 100 times ratio, depending on which exact numbers you use. That's richer than most mega cap tech companies and any telecom type companies. Some analysts talk 60 to 70x forward revenue as a range, given the Starlink growth and AI potential. Remember, this isn't a mature, slow grower like a utility. It's pricing in years of dominance in launch, Starlink, and AI infrastructure. Quick but important point about governance. The IPO and prospectus is showing they're coming in with a dual class share structure, which keeps Elon Musk firmly in a position of control. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, is the richest person on paper by far. So betting against him or his companies is typically not a good idea. This guy has an unwavering ability to just push through and get results, as shown by his company such as Tesla. Back to the deal itself. SpaceX is reportedly working with a syndicate of about 20 banks, including Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Bank of America, in addition to others. They're also planning a massive event on June 11th for about 1,500 retail investors, which matches the theme of about 30% allocation for retail investors. Musk clearly wants everyday fans of Starlink and Tesla to have a piece of the pie and not just the big banks. For us retail investors, that's a big shift from the big banks and hedge funds get the IPO, and then the retail investors are forced to buy at a marked up price. But this also could lead to extreme volatility, as the big hedge funds don't typically trade extremely fast. Retail investors could lead to the big volatility. Alright, let's talk about the bull case first. Let's see why this $1 trillion plus valuation is possible. Number one is Starlink. It's a multi-billion dollar revenue stream and still growing strongly. Number two is launch. With their inventions in reusable rockets, they could bring down the cost of bringing things to orbit down dramatically, and then they'd be the leaders in this category. If Musk can successfully use Starlink's connectivity in space and put data centers up there that rival hyperscalers down here on Earth, that is a huge win for the company. And number four is brand and network effects. SpaceX and Starlink have a strong following, similar to how there's a lot of fans of Tesla. Now the bear case why this IPO can go very wrong for investors. First comes valuation. Paying 80 to 100 times trailing revenue is typically not a good valuation. This leaves zero room for error if there's any execution mistakes, unforeseen regulatory issues, or slower than expected growth. The valuation is going to be seen as extremely high. Second is execution and CapEx risk. They are spending extremely heavily on AI right now, and if growth doesn't match what they're expecting, they might be overspending. Third is key man risk. Musk basically runs the whole show, so if he does really well, it can go well. If he makes some bad decisions, the company can do not as good. Alright, now on to the big question, is the Starlink IPO a buy in my opinion or not? Personally, I see SpaceX as a high risk, high reward play, not a sleep well at night safe play. At these rumored valuations of $1.5 to $1.8 trillion, I just feel like the valuations are too rich to go too heavy right now. But I can't ignore the uniqueness of this asset. Near monopoly launch economics, hypergrowth in the Starlink business, and extreme optionality in AI and space infrastructure. So in my portfolio, here's how I'm thinking about it. Like I've said, I've seen a lot of these big IPOs in the past. What you have to understand is employees of this company have a life-changing amount of this stock that has been unsellable for a large number of years. I think a lot of these people are going to want to liquidate, and the 30% retail allocation really speaks to this. All the tech IPOs I've seen in the past see like a minor uptick on the news and hype right off the IPO, but then after that, in the next week or two or even month later, they experience 30 to 50% declines. This happened with Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, and I very much expect SpaceX to be the same. So for me personally, there's no chance that I'm buying SpaceX shares right at the IPO price. It would have to come down 30% for me to even consider building a position. And at 50% down, I will definitely be adding some shares. It already has a monstrous valuation. At just 3 times the IPO price, it becomes the largest company in the world. It's just a lot of risk without too much upside. The final comment I like to make is that it's frustrating that companies like SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic stay private for so long and then release their shares to the public at monstrous valuations. I would have invested in SpaceX when I heard about their satellite system because the internet here in Canada, it just sucks. And seeing a version that works without all the lines and cables really seemed like a money printing opportunity to me. Alas, only large investors were able to capitalize on the run up to $1 trillion, and here we are today. Hopefully, Wealthsimple allows a better version of their private equity investing so we can invest in companies like this in the future. And just to be clear, I'm not a legal or licensed financial advisor. This video is just for entertainment. Please do your own research before buying or selling stocks. Alright, that's my full breakdown of the SpaceX IPO. If this video helped you at all, be sure to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. It really helps my channel reach out to more retail investors like yourself. I want to hear from you. Are you guys buying the SpaceX IPO? Are you waiting on the sidelines, or are you staying far away from it? Drop your comments on price targets, concerns with governance, or valuation in the comments below. I read every single one. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you in the next video.